And Secretary of State Antony Blinken there once again in Israel saying this war could end tomorrow. But is that objective easier said than done? Absolutely yes. Let's lay out all the steps that Blinken detailed here with our Patrick Reevell in Tel Aviv and our national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy. Patrick, let's start with you. Your thoughts.
Hi, Kira. Yeah, I mean, Secretary Blinken obviously covered a lot of topics in that press conference, but I think the most immediate, most important headline was that he said Israel has agreed to allow a UN assessment team to go into northern Gaza and begin assessing what conditions it could be, would allow people to start returning to northern Gaza, would allow Palestinian civilians to start returning to northern Gaza. He said that isn't going to happen overnight, but that is significant because he said that Israel is now starting to have less intense operations in northern Gaza, where it initially focused its operations, and that he says that Israel has made a commitment to allow the UN to go in, which suggests that they will, in the long term, allow people to start going back to northern Gaza. And that's hugely significant because there have been grave concerns about whether Israel would allow people to return to their homes. Of course, much of northern Gaza has been completely destroyed. We know that the great majority of buildings there have been badly damaged or destroyed. But this is significant that there appears to be an agreement to allow a UN team to go there. As he said it wouldn't happen overnight. I think the other thing that really struck me as well is that Secretary Blinken mainly was the most important things, I think, were what he was saying about the potential, the future after the conflict, trying to see what a political solution could be after this war. You know, Secretary Blinken arrived here in Israel after this whirlwind tour around the Middle East, meeting with key regional leaders, and his message was that they still want to normalize relations with Israel, because before the October 7th attack, it appeared that the US, Israel and Saudi Arabia were on the verge of a historic deal to normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And one of the goals of the attack was to derail that process. And what Secretary Blinken was saying is that based on his tour of the region and meeting with Saudi Arabia, with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia yesterday, is that they are still open to having this deal. And so what he's basically doing is dangling in front of Israel that if you agree to have a political solution where there will be a Palestinian state, then perhaps this is still on the table. But that's the key. He's insisting that there must be a pathway to a Palestinian state. And he's saying that his tour of the region showed a commitment from all of the key Arab countries and Turkey to have, to try and reconstruct Gaza and to have an agreement to potentially normalize and to try and find a pathway to normalizing relations, but only if there is a Palestinian state, a pathway to that. And we know that in the past, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been opposed to that. He's actively tried to sabotage that pretty much throughout his entire career. And so this is what the US is saying. This is their policy. As we've known, their policy is that there should be a Palestinian state after this war. The big question, though, really is whether Benjamin Netanyahu is going to agree to that. He's spent his entire career trying to resist it. And so we will see whether that will happen in the future. But it's certainly significant that that is the direction that the US is trying to push them.
Not only the U.S., but according to Blinken here, he met with leaders of Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates, including the Saudis, that Blinken says all share the same concerns about the spread of this conflict, and that all of them are committed to using their influence to prevent this from escalating into a bigger war, a bigger conflict, in addition to new wars. So, Mick, I mean, when you have the support of all these other countries, and Blinken is on record with that, could this finally be the point where Palestinians do find their way to a Palestinian state? Or is that still just way off into the future?
So, Kira, and I am in Tel Aviv, and I'm actually here to discuss how to increase humanitarian aid into Gaza. And as Patrick pointed out, if the population does move up to the north, there's going to have to be much more humanitarian aid coming in from different entry points. I would start with that. But to your question, absolutely, we should be talking about that. I know right now that humanitarian aid is going to be the most substantial and most immediate concern. But long term, if we don't want this to be an ever-ending cycle of violence, then there should be a diplomatic and political path toward a two-state solution, which is, of course, the U.S. policy that's supported by all the countries in the region, to include Israel. If that is not the case, then I think, unfortunately, this is going to continue, and it is not going to end in a secure Israel or a secure Gaza or West Bank. So I think this is exactly what the secretary should be pushing for, as well as the immediate concerns.
We'll continue to follow it. It's definitely your background, Mick. Patrick, Mick, thank you both so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.